Hello everyone, and welcome to another video lesson brought to you by practical.org, where we give you practical solutions for your classroom technology. Today's video lesson is actually part of a series of lessons that are all about creating a literary essay. This is the second of the videos, which deals with outlining your essay. So, let's get started. I'd like to start off with a picture. This is a blueprint of a bridge. A blueprint is essentially a set of written out instructions that engineers use before they actually build something. So the people that were building this particular bridge wanted to make sure all the measurements were precise so that they could avoid major errors. But what happens if you don't make a blueprint before building a bridge? You know, you're feeling too lazy, you just don't want to deal with it. Well, something like this might happen. A useless structure that likely resulted in millions of dollars of waste. I just hope no one tried to drive across it. But what does any of this have to do with the literary essay? Well, it's really important that you create a blueprint or an outline for your essay before writing it. If you don't, you might end up making some serious errors. Will errors with your essay end up costing taxpayers millions of dollars? Probably not. But they might irritate your teacher, which, if you really think about it, is a lot worse. So now that you know why it's essential to outline essays before writing them, let's get to it. When I think of outlining an essay, I like to think of a cake. No, not because I'm feeling especially hungry right now, but rather because of the way it's structured into 3 tiers, each supporting the one above it. The thesis is at the top of the cake because everything in the essay should be helping to hold that up. Below that are your reasons. These directly support the thesis because they are the reasons why you believe your thesis is true. Finally, at the bottom is the evidence. Each piece of specific evidence you find supports a reason, which in turn supports the thesis, and thus you have your 3-layer cake outline. We've already completed our thesis statements in the previous video, so today we're going to work on the second layer, the reasons. Now, when it comes to creating reasons, first we have to think about how many do we need? Well, if we're going to be writing a 5-paragraph essay, eventually, we need to have 3 reasons to support our thesis. It's easy to say that, but how do we do it? Well, here are some guidelines for crafting reasons. Saying because or when after the thesis often helps with creating reasons. Each of the 3 reasons should clearly support the thesis so that the cake functions. And the reasons should not be specific moments. We have to save that for the evidence. We have to make sure that we can still put another layer underneath this one. Okay, so in order to get kind of used to this, let's start with a really simple example that isn't based on literature that I brought up in the previous video, and that is the Yankees is the best baseball team of all time. So let's take a look here at my guidelines from the previous page. And I'm going to kind of keep those on the left side of the page as I make the reasons to make it clearer for me. So, the Yankees is the best baseball team of all time. Well, let me throw because underneath that, like it said in my first piece there. Because, okay, because why? Well, because the team has great fan support. Because the team has a history of success. Because Derek Jeter collected 216 hits in 2012. Okay, so that part's done. Next, the reasons should not be specific moments. All right, let me go through them. The team has great fan support. That's not a specific moment. The team has history of success. That's not a specific thing. Derek Jeter collected 216 hits in 2012. That's really specific. That means it's not a good reason. Got to burn that up. Let's try a new one that's a little more general. I could instead say, the team had many great players. Great, now that works as a reason. And finally, each of the reasons should support the thesis. They all definitely do. I'm good to go with this outline. Okay, so now you know how to make reasons for a pretty simple thesis statement. Now we're going to try it for a literary thesis statement. So let me go back to the page I presented in the previous video where I created a whole bunch of literary thesis statements, and I'm going to focus on, for now, this center one. In a retrieved reformation, Jimmy Valentine and Ben Price are remarkably similar. So let me put that on a page with all my guidelines ready to go. Drop it down. In a retrieved reformation, Jimmy Valentine and Ben Price are remarkably similar. Try here first, because they are both experts in their chosen field, because they are both persistent in their goals, because Price is physically stronger than Valentine. Next, I have to make sure they're not specific moments. Okay, all three of them are general enough they're not specific. And finally, I have to make sure each of the reasons support the thesis. Well, actually, and hopefully you notice this, that third reason, Price is physically stronger than Valentine, is actually a difference. My thesis is all about similarities, so that's bad. Gotta burn that one. Get rid of it. Instead, let me try one that actually supports my thesis, like this. They both experience major transformation. Now I'm good to go. I get the check mark, and I can move on. Let's try another one just so you could see a variety of examples for when it's your turn to actually do this with your thesis statement. This time, I'm going to try one with a separate piece. In a separate piece, Finney is a naive character. Okay, so I want to say because or when. This time I'm going to try to say when. So, when he ignores the importance of his schoolwork. When he fails to recognize Jean's jealousy. And when he fails to take his injury seriously. They should not be specific moments, and they're not. I'm good there. Each should clearly support the thesis, and all three do. So this outline is all set. So if you say because or when and then check off those next two boxes, as I just did a few times for you, it is very likely that your thesis statement will be easy to outline, and you'll be good to go. But there are a few final tips I want to give you before I leave you on your own. And the next tip is, if you have a character change thesis, which some of you might, try saying in the beginning, in the middle, and the end after the thesis statement to formulate reasons instead of because or when. So this only works if you have character change. So, over the course of the adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Huck gradually frees himself from the clutches of Southern society. That is clearly a character change thesis, so I'm going to try out this new method. Reason 1, in the beginning, Huck embraces the values of the South. Reason 2, in the middle, Huck begins to question the South's values. And reason 3, in the end, Huck eschews Southern values in favor of his own. You can look that word up if you want, but you could probably use context clues to actually figure out what it means. But you don't have to do that right now. Let me show you one final tip. And this slide is really just for those really advanced writers. For more complex thesis statements, don't be afraid to break away from because-when method. And specifically, I'm really looking at high school level students here. If you have a thesis that's complex, like this one, their turtle's trek across the road in Chapter 3 of Grapes of Wrath symbolizes the Joad family's journey west. Here, because, when, don't really work. So instead, I'm going to say reason 1. When the car tries to hit the turtle, this symbolizes the many antagonists the Joad family faces during their journey west. Reason 2, when the car tries to avoid the turtle, this symbolizes the many people who help the Joad family during their journey west. And reason 3, the turtle's determination to cross the road represents the Joad family's unwillingness to give in during their journey west. So there you go. That's a final example for those of you that are a little bit more advanced. And that's it. Tonight for homework, what I'd like you to do is take notes on this video so that you can use them as a reference as you work on creating reasons that support your thesis in class tomorrow. Hint, pausing the video will help you with taking notes. Okay, so don't be afraid to pause. And I specifically recommend you take notes on all my samples so that you can use those samples to help you out. In class tomorrow, you will Use the guidelines that I've presented in this lesson to select 4 out of the 8 thesis statements that you have made and create 3 reasons for each of them. And I'll be right there in class to help you out if you have any trouble creating reasons for your thesis statement. That's about it for today. If you enjoyed this lesson, be sure to check out practecal.org for more lessons just like it. Thank you. Have a good day.